Hi everyone, Patrick Marks here. Thanks for watching. Today's topic, what is marriage anyway? I mean, there's been a whole lot of debate about marriage here in the United States in the last few weeks, and so some people are wondering, well, what is a marriage in the first place? Well, from what I've been seeing on social media and in the news, most people think that marriage is just some sort of love and commitment between a couple of people. And of course that makes sense. I mean, if you have a marriage that doesn't have love and commitment, well then you're probably going to end up with a divorce. Or a reality TV show contract anyways. Now our whole culture today is saying that all you need is love. Do 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 do. Now for those of you that are older than a toddler, that was a reference to a Beatles song. And if you don't know who the Beatles are, that's just sad. Well, biblical Christians believe that marriage is a whole lot more than just love and commitment between people, and I'm going to show you why today. You see, if marriage is just love and commitment between people, then why can't I go out and marry my sister-in-law? I mean, after all, I do love my sister-in-law, and I am committed to her for life. I'm committed to loving her for life. So why can't we go get married? I mean, even if my brother-in-law decides to agree to this arrangement, because after all, he loves me too, and he's committed to me for life. And if all you need is love, then why can't we just go and kind of have a little polyandrous thing going here? Or what about multiple wives, you know, polygamy? Why can't we just do that too? It's just about love and commitment, right? Or what about two brothers or two sisters? After all, they love each other and they're committed for life too. Why can't they get married? And if they're consenting adults, why can't a father marry his own daughter? Or a mother marry her own son? Or a father marry a son? Or a mother marry a daughter? I mean, if it's just love and commitment and attraction, well then, why can't all these other relationships be allowed too? Now, of course, some people get pretty upset about that idea. They go, oh my gosh, that's gross. You're advocating incest. Well, so what? I mean, if marriage is just love and commitment, why can't people just do whatever they want to do? Now, let me be clear. I do think that incest is wrong. But I believe that because the Bible teaches that incest is wrong. But why should they say that something is wrong? I mean, are they saying that it's some kind of sexual component that makes up a marriage? I mean, is that what we're saying here? Because that's a pretty weak argument if that's what we're going to add. Because honestly, you don't have to be married to have sex. And besides, from a biology point of view, male plumbing is supposed to fit into female plumbing. So if you use that argument, you're going to be throwing the whole support for gay marriage right out the window. So you can't argue that the proper kind of sex is required in order to have a real marriage. So some people try to argue that polygamy and polyandry and all of these other kind of arrangements, they're unacceptable because the majority of people today don't accept it. Majority opinion, is that what we're back to? I mean, that's a pretty poor argument too, because gay marriage supporters just finished convincing the Supreme Court and the entire United States that we should not prevent people who are loving each other and committed to each other from being married just because of their sexual preference. That's not really a good argument against polygamy or polyandry, or heck, even bestiality for that matter. And besides all of that, majorities can change their opinions. Laws can be changed, as we've clearly seen. So love and commitment and sexual preference and majority opinions, those things are just arbitrary. Those are just standards that we just kind of pick out of thin air to try to decide what marriage is. That's not a very good standard. And if marriage just becomes whatever anybody wants it to be, then eventually it becomes meaningless. And of course people act that way already. I mean, after all, you don't need a marriage license to go out and breed like a rabbit. So why bother having marriage at all? I mean, what's the point? Well, the Bible does have a reason for people getting married. But I can't expect everybody to accept a biblical opinion. Now, people are going to go out and do whatever they want to do anyway, so it kind of doesn't matter if we biblical Christians explain ourselves. But I do think we need to do so with gentleness and respect. See, a biblical Christian looks to the Bible to explain what a marriage is and what it should be like. And Jesus said in Matthew chapter 19, verse 4, that it was God who made human beings male and female. And he said this explains why a man leaves his father and his mother and is joined to his wife. And since they're no longer two but one, let not man separate what God has put together. In other words, biblical Christians believe that Jesus taught us that marriage is sacred. It's something that God created in the beginning. And God doesn't want us to separate what He has planned and designed and put together. Because as soon as we do that, then marriage is no longer holy, it's no longer sacred. But it's actually a whole lot deeper than that for biblical Christians. Because Ephesians chapter 5 verse 32 says this, "A man leaves his father and his mother, and the two are united, and they become one. But this is a great mystery. It's actually an illustration of Christ and the church." So from a biblical Christian's point of view, marriage is actually a living artwork that demonstrates God's relationship with people. This is just like how God loved us so much that He gave His only Son to die in our place to pay for our sins. In other words, as a husband, I should love my wife so much that I'm willing to die for a crime that she commits. In a biblical marriage, a wife is supposed to respect and honor her husband. And I'm here to tell you that's a whole lot bigger commitment than just love and attraction. I mean, that's the kind of ideal that takes an entire lifetime to figure out how to do well. So not everyone's gonna believe what the Bible happens to teach about what marriage is, but now you know what the Bible has to say about it. And now you know why biblical Christians think that marriage is actually sacred, not just something we do because we're attracted to someone. So we believe that marriage is a picture painted by God about how He relates to the human race. And that's something that's a whole lot bigger than sex. It's a whole lot bigger than, well, majority opinion or anything else. Anything other than the picture that God painted when it comes to marriage, that's just graffiti as far as biblical Christians are concerned. Well, that's all I have for you today, folks. So please don't forget to subscribe and click on the like button. That really does help. And don't forget to be good, don't do anything evil, and we'll see you next time.